2025 Chinese Grand Prix race notes. Sabrina's race notes. Dick, before I head out to the airport, I wanted to get you my race notes, so I am glad that I got up to watch this race. Number 1. How unfortunate for Alonso. I was really hoping we could see what he could do this year. 2 races and 2 DNFs. It would be awesome to have a breakout moment at Suzuka. Number 2. I'm quite impressed by Antonelli's ability to stay in the front of the rookie class. I realize he's not with Russell yet, but I think his race shows he's learning and growing. On the note of Russell, I think he's stepping up as leader in this team. He should feel good, in my opinion. As he noted during the post-race show, the McLarens have pace and he maximized everything. Number 3. I'm still trying to understand how Charles kept pace with the damaged front wing. Number 4. Oscar. Quite impressive, especially after last week's race. His resilience and determination continues to impress me. In many ways, this was a clinical win. His calm demeanor makes me smile, as did his cheeky statement right after crossing the finish line. The tires are lovely. That psychological dig at Max. Boy-oh. Number 5. Lando got P2 despite the failing brakes. To me, that's incredible. Number 6. Max did exactly what I expected. He calmly hunted his way up after settling in the initial laps. I'm surprised that Red Bull didn't have pace. Number 7. What a redemption for Haas this weekend. Number 8. Racing Bulls had pace this weekend. It's unfortunate the strategy didn't allow them to truly capitalize it. My heart feels sad for Yuki. The strategy call just didn't allow him to maximize the races I believe he could have. And after last weekend, for Hadjar to start P7 and display his impressive driving skills, in both their cases, I walk away from this race thinking, oh, what could have been. Hopefully, Racing Bulls can get their groove in Suzuka. I think they indeed have talented drivers. Number 9. Seems to me that this race came down to the front left tire deg, how you managed it, and whether your team adapted to new information as the race progressed. And number 10. I love this race for those turns that really test the car and the drivers.
All right, well, hey, everybody. Time for some race notes. Sabrina recorded her race notes, got on a plane to fly to the UK, and did not hear about the DQs that happened after the Chinese Grand Prix. And we didn't have one DQ, not 2, but we had 3. Both Ferraris disqualified from the final results of the Chinese Grand Prix, as well as the Alpine of Pierre Gasly. In the case of Gasly and Leclerc, they were down 1 kilogram below the minimum weight limit. And so, unfortunately for them, the rules are the rules, and they were disqualified from the results, which is pretty crazy. And then, of course, Lewis Hamilton, he came across the scales legal, but his problem is that apparently his rear skid blocks were worn more than the rules allow. So the car was, basically being drug against the surface of the track, and that's a no-no. So anyway, 3 DQs, which of course changed up the standings quite a bit. That had no bearing whatsoever on the overall outcome of the race in terms of who finished first and second, because McLaren, they were just really strong all weekend. I mean, Piastri, for whatever reason, he just had it together this weekend. I mean, it was really great to see Oscar drive such a good race. I thought Lando did a great job hanging on to finish second in a car that really wasn't going all that well. He was having all sorts of braking problems there towards the end of the race. He almost got caught by George Russell, but at the end of the day, McLaren dominated. They're clearly the best car out there. Their driver combination of Norris and Piastri, obviously, if they're not the strongest driver combo out there, I mean, you could argue that Ferrari has the strongest driver combo with Hamilton and Leclerc, obviously, but still very, very strong drivers armed with an incredibly effective car. So anyway, the results kind of bear up for it right now. McLaren has not lost a race so far this year. I realize, hey, we're 2 races into the season, but man, they're sure looking good right now. At the absolute other side of the grid, you kind of wonder about what's going on within Red Bull and what they're going to do with Liam Lawson. I mean, the rumors are already out there that Liam could very well be swapped with Yuki Tsunoda, and Liam becoming demoted to Racing Bulls, which I'm not sure if that's a demotion, quite frankly, and Yuki being promoted to Red Bull. If I was Yuki, I'd be thinking about it more than once. The Red Bull seems to be an incredibly peaky car, very, very narrow setup window, and Max seems to be hitting that window, but at the same time, that car is not the world beater that Red Bull is accustomed to putting on the track, and I think they're in real trouble. It'll be interesting to see what happens, and as I think about Lawson and just, two really tough races for that young man, I think about Oliver Behrman, who also had a really tough time of it in Australia, and he bounced back and actually put together a really fine, solid weekend. I was really glad to see him come back. And certainly, while we're talking about the rookies, I'd have to say that Kimi Antonelli and Isaac Hadjar are seriously impressive young drivers. They have been doing very, very well. And I have to give a tip of the hat to Behrman, because that race that he had in Australia, that would have been something that would destroy most young drivers' confidence. And he put it behind him, and he went out and did what he can do. And I just thought it was excellent. And so I was really glad to see that. Kind of hard to kind of judge what Doohan is doing. I think he's been doing a great job. Certainly Pierre Gasly is not just leaving him in the dust. So that's a good thing for Doohan. And I also think that, it's so hard to tell how Bortoleto is doing because of what he's driving. But he's got an experienced teammate in Nico Hülkenberg, and Hülkenberg is not dominating him. So I'm thinking that, Bortoleto may be one of these guys that has the luxury of being brought up and trained and experiencing his first season or two in Formula One and actually doing it kind of under the covers. Nobody's got any big expectations for him, but he's actually doing a really solid job. Another big point I thought for the race weekend was just the fact that Lewis Hamilton won his first ever race for Ferrari in the sprint race. So I was happy to see that. I think it was a little bit of a monkey off the back for Lewis. And of course, he put in a solid Grand Prix the next day. The skid block was there, and that was a problem. Ferrari never seemed to be right on it for the Grand Prix itself, but they were going to salvage some pretty useful points until the DQs came in. And so I thought that was really good. And then I think the last thing that I would bring up is just that, it seems like Racing Bulls right now has the fifth best car in the field. And I think if Lawson gets demoted to Racing Bulls, all of a sudden we're probably going to see him doing really well again. I hope that's the case, because I think clearly he is in a no-win situation, being forced to drive a car that no one else except his teammate can seem to drive. So anyway, those are my race notes. Wasn't that spectacular of a Grand Prix because Piastri and McLaren in general just put a stamp of authority on that race. So we've got a week off, and then we go to our first triple header of the year. That will be Japan, Bahrain, and then Saudi Arabia. So it ought to be pretty darn interesting. The month of April is going to be a busy one, and I look forward to seeing what happens next. Can anybody stop the McLarens?